pediatric classes. Today we will discuss about another important topic. This will be the part 2 of cardiovascular system discussion. So today the topic will be on ASD. ASD, as you all know, it is atrial septal defect. So that is some defect in the atrial septum. To know before going into the details of ASD, we should know a bit about the embryology of ASD. The embryology of the development of the atrial septum. This development of the septum starts by around 4th week of gestation. So what happens here is there is a growth of a septum primum from the roof of the primitive atrium. So once it starts growing from the roof, what happens? It grows towards the endocardial cushion. There is a gap between the end of the septum primum and the endocardial cushion, which if it passes, that is the site for the ostium primum ASD. So this keep on growing till the septum primum reaches and fuses with the endocardial cushion. Now what happens? The ostium primum is closed. Here, then the septum primum will start degenerating from the top part and will leave you a gap. This is the site for the ostium. This is actually the ostium secundum. So what happens here? Then later we will see the development of another septum to the right of the original place of the septum primum. That is the septum secundum, which grows and actually covers the ostium secundum. But can you make out there is a gap between like this? This is the foramen ovale through which the blood transfers from the right atrium to the left atrium in the fetal life. Okay. So now let us see what are the types of atrial septal defect. So we have so many types. So one of the types are ostium secundum ASD. Ostium secundum ASD are the most common type of ASDs. ASD as such account for around 5 to 10% of the congenital heart disease. So ostium secundum ASD happens once the ostium secundum, which is already there, is not closed properly by the septum secundum, or there is more and more reabsorption of the septum primum. So that is ostium secundum. So what is this ostium primum ASD? Ostium primum ASD is when the defect is here. Okay. When there is a defect between the end of the septum primum and the endocardial cushion. Now then we have the sinus venosus type of ASD. So venosus type of ASD, actually this does not involve the true membranous septum. Here what happens is the superior vena cava opening overrides the fossa avalis. That is the connection between the left atria and the right atria. So that is the about sinus venosus ASD. Superior, there are two types actually for PGs, superior and inferior. Superior when the SVC overrides the both atria, and IVC type or the inferior type when the inferior vena cava overrides the atria, both atria. Okay, so this is two types of sinus venosus type of ASD. At the undergraduate level, you need to know it is the abnormal attachment of the superior vena cava to the right atria. We have coronary sinus type of ASD. So what is this coronary sinus? Coronary sinus is lying in the groove between the left atria and the left ventricle, and it drains the vessels carrying the venous drainage from the heart muscle. So what happens here is when there is and it generally drains into the floor of the right atria, this above the septal leaflet to the tricuspid valve. When there is a connection or an unroofing of the roof of the coronary sinus, what we see? There is abnormal communication between the coronary sinus and the left atria also. So this will actually behave like an ASD where there is a connection between the right atria and the left atria. So that is another type of ASD known as coronary sinus ASD. For the second is a type of ASD which is associated with syndromes like Newlands. To the hemodynamics of ASD, we should know this diagram very clearly. RA receiving blood from superior vena cava, inferior vena cava. We have a left atria and this is our atrial septal defect. So what happens is RA, there is a shunt of blood from left atria to the right atria through the atrial septal defect. So lots of blood is there in the right atria which will go via the tricuspid valve to the right ventricle. From the right ventricle it gets pushed into the pulmonary circulation. Okay, then it comes back to LA. Again some will go through here to the RA. Then to the LV and then it gets pumped out of the aorta. Here, when will the shunt be more, at birth or as the child grows up? Definitely, the shunting won't be happening so much at birth. Why? Because there will be lots of, there's more pressure in the pulmonary circulation in the initial period of life, and RV will not be that combined. But as the child grows, what happens? The capacitance of the pulmonary vasculature also increases. RV more and more output will be able to receive. So there is more and more shunting across the LA to RA, causing all the symptoms of an ASD a bit later in life. So here what my question is, will this shunt cause a murmur? The answer is no. Why? Because there is no much pressure difference between this RA and LA to create a murmur. So now, are there any chance for flow murmurs? Yes. When there is a flow, this flow across the tricuspid valve during the diastole will cause a delayed diastolic murmur. Again, when the RV is contracting, it pushes the blood to the pulmonary circulation across the pulmonary valve. That will cause an ejection systolic type of murmur. We have two flow murmurs. One is a delayed diastolic murmur of tricuspid valve, and another thing is an ejection systolic murmur across the pulmonary valve. So this much you should be very clear. Now our question next is like, when or what will happen to our heart sounds? As I already told you, the clinical features, we can say initially the patients will be asymptomatic only. They start developing symptoms a bit later into your life. Even if the symptoms will develop when this pulmonary QP to QS, that means the flow of blood into the pulmonary circulation to the ratio of blood flowing to systemic circulation is more than 1.5:1. So now what else we need to know about this? So mostly the child will be asymptomatic. Something else in the examination? Yes, it is about our heart sounds. What will happen to S1? S1 generally will be normal in most of the cases, but for PGs we can understand that sometimes this tricuspid with the S1, because of the T1 component, can be a bit loud too. Okay, coming to the S2 is a major thing. The split has to be, how will the split be? Split is wide. Why? I hope you have listened to the class on CVS part 1 to understand the concepts better. So again I will explain to you. S2 component is, we have two components, A2 and P2. Because more and more blood is there in the right ventricle, it takes more time for the complete emptying of the right ventricle, delaying the closure of the pulmonary valve and P2. So the P2 is delayed. P2 is also delayed because of a prolonged hangout interval because of the increased capacitance of the pulmonary vasculature. So we have a wide split. So we know wide split can be a fixed split or it can be a variable split. To know whether it is a fixed or a variable split. So what is a fixed or what is a variable split and all we have discussed in part 1. But still here it is a, we have, that is because when the split is remaining the same in inspiration and expiration, that is called a fixed split. RA and LA. There is already a connection between the RA and LA, so the inspiration does not produce any much pressure difference between them. So what happens is, whether it is inspiration or whether it is expiration, there is no much difference in the split. So the split remains the same both in inspiration and expiration, and that is why it is called as a wide fixed split. So it is wide and fixed. In the investigations, we do an ECG in ostium, secondum ASD, we get a right axial deviation, we get an RVX, we also get an RSR- pattern in almost 90% of the patients in lead V1 in case of ostium secondum ASD. What will you see in ostium primum ASD? Ostium primum ASD, we get a left axial deviation. Now coming to the X-ray findings, you may get a mild cardiomegaly, you may see a small RA enlargement and RV enlargement in the X-ray. The pulmonary plethora may be seen in case of ASDs. On echo, we will be able to know the size of the defect and also the margin, so that we will know whether will be able to close the defect properly or not. So here we should know that about the size. If it is less than 3 millimeter, almost 100% chance that the defect will close. If it is between 3 to 8 millimeter, there is 80% chance of closure, and more than 8 millimeter, it hardly or rarely closes. Assessment in a case of ASD. Severity depends upon the size of the defect. So how can we grade it with a murmur? If there is a bigger size ASD, more and more blood flows from the left atria to the right atria to the right ventricle and then across the pulmonary valve, causing more murmur. So the severity is directly proportional to the duration of the murmur heard. Okay. Coming to the treatment of it, most of the first advanced type of ASD, we can go for a percutaneous closure using ambulatory devices, etc. And some we may have to go and close it surgically. It's better we close the ASDs early, because there is a chance of arrhythmias or even in certain conditions pulmonary hypertension in case of ASD. Why is it so? Because more and more blood is going to the pulmonary circulation, so there is an alteration in the pulmonary vasculature, so leading on to the development of pulmonary hypertension. If the pulmonary hypertension develops, and then there is a chance that the flow may reverse and the flow will come from right atria to the left atria, causing a desaturation or cyanosis. That is actually called the Eisenmenger syndrome. So in this session, we have discussed about the types of ASD, the hemodynamics, findings and the complications. Thank you.